Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Water Cooler Chat episode 27, Asteroid City.
Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. We are going to gather around the water cooler today and have a chat about the movie Asteroid City. It's a Wes Anderson movie that we think has the potential to be nominated for Best Picture this year in the Oscars. And we're trying to take a look at as many of those movies as we can before the official season gets started. Dan, why don't you tell us what you think about the movie Asteroid City?
I just watched it again this morning. I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I watched it again. It's a difficult movie to for me to draw a lot of conclusions about. It's so very stilted and dry, and a part of that I think is the intentional with the premise of the live action being a play.
Right.
And so I think the style of acting is deliberately stilted, which makes it a little hard to get into, I think. Zach and I talked about this at a previous water cooler, we were talking about the movie for some reason or another, and
it's for our director's series that has yet to come out soon.
Yeah, coming
it
soon.
Will be soon. Yep.
Previously in the future.
Yes, all the way to the year 2000. And I ended up saying, I think I'm going to like this more the more I see it. And I find it visually amazing. Every detail, of course, is just so, because that's the Wes Anderson way. It's almost like a parody of a Wes Anderson movie in its particularness. But I'm still not sure what I really think of it. I thought I would get more out of the second viewing, and I did find it. I found it funnier the second time around. I think there's a lot of good writing, and there's a lot of stilted delivery, and I think sometimes that's really good, and I think sometimes it's keeping me from embracing it because it's so unemotional. So mixed, I would say. I enjoyed rewatching it. It's one of those things where I can absolutely see people who are not into Wes Anderson being like, this is a terrible movie. I think it's one of those, it's going to be a little more divisive for people. But Matt, let's hear what you have to say about this.
I really liked it. I rewatched it today as well. I saw it twice in the theater. And in rewatching it today, I found the middle kind of dragged a little. I was almost dozing off. It feels like the whole movie is put through this bland filter. And like, there's a lot of details and a lot of interesting stuff happening all the time. But like you said, Dan, there's not a lot of emotion. That's the long and short of it. I really liked it, though, overall. Zach, what'd you think?
So I've seen it 3 times. The first time was in the theater, and it was a botched theater experience because they chopped off the outer edges. I won't go into that any further, but it was very...
Wait, what do you mean they chopped off the outer edges? Like it wasn't centered on the screen, right?
They did not frame it correctly. So it's a 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio. So it means it's the scope, like really long widescreen.
Right.
And they chopped off the left and right sides so that it would fit in the 16:9 framing of the...
I wonder if that's because it starts 3x4, doesn't it? Or am I thinking of something
4x3?
Yeah,
no,
4x3.
Yeah, it does. It does kind of jump around a lot. But it was extremely noticeable on the crawl of the titles when all the different names were getting chopped off on the edge, and it was extremely noticeable later on when the scene with Scarlett Johansson on the right hand side and Jason Schwartzman on the left hand side were talking to each other. They were at the motel place in their
Midge
own little,
and Augie.
in their little bungalows, and they were completely cut off. So it was like all you saw was the middle of you just saw like the edges of their little bungalows, and then you saw the middle part of the pathway between the two of them. And you hear these people talking, and you're like, disembodied voices. What's going on? You know.
And the theaters are not doing well to win me back. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I know these are fringe incidents, like Matt's Oppenheimer film tearing or whatever, and then this now. But
And the thing is, if it was like some John Cena action movie or something like that, I wouldn't care. But for
Sure.
something like this, I specifically wanted to see what Wes Anderson was going to do with the framing, and that, because he's so meticulous and so careful. Anyway, long story short, I've seen it twice now at home in the proper aspect ratio, proper framing. And I'm kind of in the same boat as Matt and Dan. It's an interesting story with a lot of complexities, but I just don't feel like it gives me enough emotional pull to really care about any specific characters. I think kind of like the ultimate thing is Augie's character in the play is struggling with the loss of his wife and coming to grips with that, because there's a lot of talk about grief and how people are kind of dealing with that. But I do think it's very interesting that the lack of emotion, that you get that with the parts that are supposed to be the play, which usually with a play, oftentimes you have like overacting or excessive emotion at times, because it's not calculated. It is what happens in the moment. And so sometimes the actors are doing their thing and they go a little too far.
Well, you also have to play it big for a crowd, because there's no close-ups in the theater.
Yeah. So I find that kind of interesting, that for it to actually be a play that you're watching play out, and then for it to kind of just feel so emotionless,
Yeah, and the black and white TV show version is more exaggerated, which is the opposite of what it should be. Like the documentary, like framing device. That's an interesting thing. It's inverted that way. I think that's a good point.
I do really love the visuals. I love the ensemble cast. It's just fun seeing some of those people do their thing. And I also really like the artificial stuff that pops up. Whether it's just like the kids messing around with the road runner, on the side of the road. Or the car part that's just kind of like flailing around, or even the stop motion of the alien. I think there's enough to like here that I will revisit it from time to time. But it is just one of those movies where I kind of feel like if you don't really like Wes Anderson, you're probably not going to get much out of it. And you're not really going to care that much either.
And that's when you throw it to me. I'm not a super big Wes Anderson fan. Maybe I don't get it as much as I'd like to think that I would, the whole thing. But I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times now, like not Asteroid City, but the Wes Anderson movie. And they just don't seem to bring a whole lot of new with each new iteration. Sure, it's a different setting and all that stuff, but they are just kind of the same movie over and over again. You've got the same main character and not a ton of conflict, and I don't know. It was very nice to look at. I enjoyed that, and the acting was good enough, but I didn't find anything particularly interesting about any of the characters themselves. Like, I don't know. I don't find myself compelled to go back and watch it again and sort out all of the layers of meta that we've got going on here. It just doesn't intrigue me enough. So yeah, pretty boring stuff within the world of Wes Anderson as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't new in any way. So yeah, I guess it's not the most rave review from any of us.
Yeah, I'm still going to continue watching his movies as they come out, because I still like his style. But I am in the same boat where it's kind of, we're in a downward trajectory. It doesn't seem like the new films that are coming out are doing new things or exciting in the ways that viewers will want to experience them and enjoy them. Yeah. And also, like how you were saying, you didn't really get it. I kind of feel the same way too. I feel like on his earlier movies, I got the insider perspective. I understood what he was trying to do, and right. the later half. There's some where I don't really necessarily need it. Like the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's a fun film, independent of understanding what he's actually trying to do. But for like this movie and some of his other later ones, you feel like there's an inside joke going that you're just not a part of. And quite frankly, I don't know that anybody in the audience is a part of it. Maybe Wes Anderson just does it for himself and doesn't care about really anybody else. And he's actually really sitting there surprised that anybody actually wants to go see his movies or pays money for them, which I'm totally okay with. Like that's fine. If you do it for yourself, that's fine.
He's not spending a lot of money. I mean, I think the budget on this was like $25 million. So as far as movie budgets go, great. And it made money. Enough people went to go see it for it to be profitable. So that's great. And I liked that it came in under 2 hours, or was it hour 45? That was refreshing again. But the highlight of the movie should never be that it didn't take up a lot of my time. And that kind of felt like it was.
It was such an exercise in style. And that I love that part of Wes Anderson movies, the way they look. But I didn't feel like there was much else that I can find in it. I'm sure he's trying to say something. And I think broadly speaking, it's that it's hard for some people to come to grips with grief, and perhaps the monotone style is sort of referring to that. But
and that's great. And had I never seen a Wes Anderson movie with a main character who is coming to grips with grief, because that seems to be the focal point of every single Wes Anderson movie, then great, let's make Asteroid City and let's have that be a thing. But maybe, and I'm not saying I want him to direct the next Marvel movie, because I want him to stay in his world. I love what he does within that, but there needs to be some diversity with it. If you're going to keep making new, you need to bring something new to the table next time,
Yeah. And I personally really have enjoyed Grand Budapest and French Dispatch. Those are two of my sort of really, I found them really enjoyable. So for me, it's not really a trend. It's just this specific one. I have had more trouble getting into it than any of his other movies, warts and all, because some of the movies like Darjeeling and even Life Aquatic are a little, they're great at times and then like don't quite work at times. This I felt was exactly what it intended to be. You mentioned the acting, Dave, and you said that it was good enough. I think they did exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I agree.
But what they did is a thing that I just didn't get a ton out of. So it was great execution of a thing that I don't find that compelling. And I don't feel that way about all his more recent movies, but I felt like this one is a very specific thing. And if you suck out emotion or a statement that people can grapple with, more people can grapple with, then you're left with an exercise in style. And maybe I'll feel differently if I come back to this later, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Matt, how do you feel? Have you watched a lot of Wes Anderson's movies? Do you feel that this is? You said you liked this one. How do you feel it ranks within those?
The only other one I think I've seen is Grand Budapest Hotel, and I've seen like half those short movies he did.
Right, the Netflix ones.
Yeah, I think I liked Grand Budapest Hotel a little bit more, but I think this was visually better.
Yeah.
It just. I was going to say I felt like there were almost too many characters in it, but then I started thinking about it, and there aren't, but we just in no way go into any depth with any of the characters. Everything's very superficial.
It holds you at arm's length deliberately, which kind of works against me really enjoying the movie as much as I could.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record as we go through this series, but I didn't care about any of the characters really. So, and that seems to be a theme that we've
none of the characters experienced any growth at all.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody ended exactly where they started.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to say even that it's the old joke of not enough boobs and explosions, but you got both of those.
Yeah.
And it still didn't work for you.
I know. That's my my wheelhouse, throw some boobs and explosions in there. And typically I'm happy, but yeah.
So what do we think awards wise? Best picture, probably.
Let's save that one for last. Let's start with acting. Do you think anybody's going to get an acting award? I don't think Schwartzman will. I don't think Johansson will.
I don't think anybody should.
I don't
this.
know.
No.
There just wasn't enough going on.
It's just too bland. It's just too
I
controlled.
think the best performance was Margot Robbie, and she was only in it for
Who was she in it? I just saw that she was in it when I was
the
getting ready.
wife in the black and white sequence when he goes out on the balcony.
Oh,
The wife that got
lady.
cut.
The wife who got cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought she was the most. She had the most emotion and impact, and she was in it for like 2 minutes.
Just give
And that
Margot
might
Robbie
be
all the Oscars
joke.
this year.
Yeah.
She's so good.
Oh, exactly, Matt. They cut the emotion part out of it.
Yeah.
Like you cut the dead wife, so we have nothing to connect to with this grief.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
All right. So probably no actor or actress nominations. I do think that some of the visual things will get nominations because it is a striking movie. There's a lot to look at, and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, like costume or production design, things like that.
Yeah.
And maybe like something like editing,
Yeah.
It's
and
a
you've
very
got-
precise, movie. And so I think that might get recognized.
It's a movie you could show for making a film in a film class. I don't doubt that. Just not as far as writing a story is concerned, because that's not particularly interesting. On that note, definitely not adapted or definitely not screenplay. What about directing or best picture? Now that we're through the other ones,
I think maybe directing,
Yeah, I would see that.
but it's only 5 slots, so maybe it has a better chance at best picture. To me, it's not. I don't think it's one of the 10 best of the year. Sometimes names carry weight with the Oscars. So
yeah. What do you think, Zach? Best picture nomination?
I think it might. I might get the best picture, but I don't think it'll get director. I think it'll mostly get snubbed for everything. Maybe a couple technicals. Yeah. When you're talking about the awards, the people who are voting on stuff, they want to connect with the movies in some way, and I think the lack of connection on this one might really sour some of the voters.
yeah, or at least a
turn away
clear
from it.
statement of what the movie wants to say, which is another problem we just talked about.
Right. All right. Anything else on the Asteroid City, guys?
I love
like that,
the alien.
Jeff. Yeah,
The
I was just gonna say.
That's great. Well,
Everything
there's so
about
many.
the alien I loved.
Yeah, I loved all the inventions by the kids.
Yeah, those were great.
The car sequences with Matt Dillon were funny. The most, inaccurate. Obviously, that was not the goal, but
Yeah, no, of course not.
but I found that funny.
It was hilarious. It was the only time I actually, felt emotion during the movie was that opening scene where he's diagnosing the problem with the car.
I also liked when Fisher Stevens, his version of acting in the acting class was of sleeping was to hop up with his hands in front of him and just like walk around like a zombie sleepwalker, like a mummy or something.
Right.
There was lots of little funny bits that I laughed at, and I noticed more of them this time around.
Mhm.
So I would say I actually enjoyed the experience of watching it. I'm just having trouble putting it up with the really good Wes Anderson stuff for all the reasons we talked about.
Well, tell us what you think of Asteroid City in the comments. Like and subscribe if you do that kind of thing. If you want more content like this, you can find everything we've done at 64tacos.com. And if you really like it, go to buymeacoffee.com/64tacos to buy us a taco. And thanks for listening.
I caught it on audio.